Coming up on BBC London, a special programme from the helipad on top of the Royal London Hospital. Responding to nearly 2,000 incidents last year by air and road. It's never been busier. We go behind the scenes with London's air ambulance, meeting the medics saving lives.
Patient climbed out of the car, fell over, struck his head, had a brief cardiac arrest. That means his heart stopped, he stopped breathing.
One of the challenges of the job is making sure that you're always ready to be sent on what could be the worst job and the biggest job that you've ever had to deal with and will ever have to deal with.
And those whose lives they've saved.
Thank you for saving me and not giving up on me.
Very good evening, I'm Asad Ahmed. Welcome to a special edition of BBC London, coming to you live from the rooftop of the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel. This is the base for London's air ambulance, the #1 air ambulance anywhere in the world. In the next half hour, you'll find out exactly why that is, because they've allowed us to join them during their day-to-day work, during their training, and also to meet one of the thousands of lives that they've saved. Now, from this base in Whitechapel, they can get anywhere in the M25 area in just 11 minutes. Our health correspondent Carl Mercer has been out with them to have a look at the work that they do.
Bearing a distance, Sandy. 200, 10 miles, 210.
It's a job where every minute counts. Whether they're in the well-known red helicopter,
we are en route 60 to 50 minutes, 5 minutes,
or in the less well-known cars they use at night or when the helicopter's not flying. It's about getting to some of London's most severely injured patients as quickly as possible.
We have a sort of full, effectively critical care unit in the back of the ambulance, but we can't carry all of it at once, so we start deciding and rationalising what we're going to take.
They've been called to a car crash, a young man in need of help.
Patient climbed out of the car, fell over, struck his head, had a brief cardiac arrest. That means his heart stopped, he stopped breathing.
When they arrive, they take over, helped by the crews already there.
He's gone into the back of someone?
Back of a car.
We bring extra kit, we bring extra skills, we bring some leadership and direction and guidance. And it's a little bit like a relay race or a chain, and we're just another link in the chain.
Yeah, guys, we've been called to assist one of our advanced paramedic colleagues.
The shift before, we're out with Robbie and Lindsay in the car, called to a man with a badly broken leg.
Right, fella, I'm just going to have a look at you, all right? And we're going to sort your leg out, okay?
And taking high-level hospital skills to treat people at the roadside.
Well, let's sort his leg out and then... So he's got a nasty fracture to his right leg, which is angulated, so we need to give him some strong pain relief and sedation.
Yep, Mini 3, I'll try and send it out again.
Their next call is to a young woman who's stopped breathing. They need to get there quickly, but safely.
We aren't going to discuss clinical information about the job now, so Lindsay isn't distracted by that while she's driving. So our focus now is to just navigate there effectively and safely. So she's currently unconscious with really ineffective breathing, so we need to support that by putting a tube into her lungs and giving some special medications that only we carry to try and help correct the problem with her asthma, which is causing very severe narrowing of her airways. So we're going to go and do that quite quickly now, all right?
They stabilise the patient, who's then transferred to an ambulance and taken to hospital. Robbie in the ambulance, Lindsay following, and with the patient delivered, her work continues.
So we just had to give that young lady an anaesthetic outside the house. So right now I need to make sure that all our equipment is back where it should be, and also restock the bags to make sure that we have enough to hand if we were to have to do another anaesthetic.
And as they clear up, time for a debrief with London Ambulance colleagues, an important part of every job they do.
These jobs are quite stressful. We see a lot of these intense jobs, with our daily work. That's what we're here for, but the ambulance service crews may only see 1 or 2 jobs like that a year. So there's a lot going on. They can be quite intense. So it's important to allow people to talk about the job, how they're feeling, but also there's always lots of really good clinical learning.
Red base, minute 3, mobile, ET of 15.15.
As night falls, Amar and Kevin take over in the cars. They're off to East London, a car crash with lots of resources sent. A man has been hit by a car. They take control at the scene, able to give the patient stronger drugs than the other medical teams. They stabilise him, then take him to the nearest major trauma hospital.
Cases like this, when they could have very significant internal injuries, it's about providing stabilising the patient on the roadside, but also getting the patient to these specialist centres as soon as possible. So that's our aim now with the patient. It's definitely doing a lot better than when we first saw him, and it's all about getting the patient to hospital now.
So patients fortunately remained quite nice and stable en route. Main priority for him has been pain relief. Trying to keep him as comfortable as possible with some nasty injuries.
Another patient cared for, one of nearly 2,000 that London's air ambulance saw last year, a record number.
One of the challenges of the job is making sure that you're always ready to be sent on what could be the worst job and the biggest job that you've ever had to deal with and will ever have to deal with.
And tomorrow, they'll do it all again. Carl Mercer, BBC London.
And that's just some of the work done by London's air ambulance. Let's speak to one of the men who works in here all the time, John Chatterjee, one of the consultants of the London Air Ambulance. We heard one of your colleagues in that report say you're just a link in a chain. Surely you're much more than that.
I honestly don't think so. I think, we are a small part in a long journey these patients go through, and, we are there at the sharp end, and we're there at the point that may make a difference, but actually on their journey to recovery and to go back to a normal life, their families, the physios, the occupational therapists, the surgeons, the whole teams that look after them, it's everybody needs to do their bit, and we need to do our bit when we're there.
Now, I've lost count of the number of people that I've heard call you heroes, and I have to say, from what I've seen, I would support that description of you. Even Michael from Mitcham called BBC Radio London today to say the London Air Ambulance saved my uncle's life after an accident on the M25. I'm forever grateful to him. Many other people called us as well to say the same thing. How does that make you feel?
To be honest, embarrassed.
Embarrassed?
A little bit awkward.
Really?
It's lovely to hear people being thankful and grateful for the work that we do, but we are doing our jobs, and my job is to do that to the best possible ability, and that's why I became a doctor. I wanted to make a difference, and this is the way, with my skill set, that I think I do my job best. And so it's a privilege to do this, and it's a privilege to be there at those moments in people's lives.
And can you lead a normal life as well when you're away from the helipad and the helicopter?
Yes.
Can you switch off when you after a day's work?
Sometimes you take things home with you, and I think, to be honest, when you've seen some horrible things, and it's not the big jobs, it's not the jobs that necessarily hit the news or major incidents and things like that. Obviously, those things you do take home with you, but sometimes it can be the smallest thing. And I always think, when I'm speaking to a family member and telling them, some of the most shattering news in their lives, you have to give part of yourself to that, because you have to be in the moment with them there, and that's tough.
I'm sure it is tough. John Chatterjee, thank you for everything that you do and for speaking to us on BBC London. Let me just move around to this side of the helicopter, because here we've got Chris Demaine, a paramedic who's joined London Air Ambulance. You're actually from Australia. Yeah. You've come in and joined one of the best air ambulance teams in the world.
Yeah, I feel quite privileged and honoured that I've been able to work for London Air Ambulance charity. And what I find unique about this service is how quickly we're able to respond to the most traumatically injured patients.
Now, you're an ex-military man in the Australian forces, and you've served in Afghanistan. Has that prepared you for what you're seeing in London?
In terms, yeah, there's a few similarities that definitely have helped me prepare for this job. The attention to detail that we have to maintain at all times, making sure our equipment's always ready to go, and by doing all that stuff, we ensure that when we do reach the patient, we know our equipment's ready to go, we know that we can pick any issues and identify them quickly and deliver the care that we need to.
And the team here seems very, very close. It's a really tight-knit, supportive team. Is that what you found?
Definitely. Everyone's very open and welcoming, and yeah, it's just like a big family for all of us, so I feel very lucky to be a part of that.
Well, Chris Demaine, we're lucky to have you here in this country doing this for us. Thank you very much for that. Well, the London Air Ambulance goes out on about 5 missions a day. Sometimes it's a bit more, sometimes it's a bit less. In between those missions, the team isn't sitting there on their hands twiddling their thumbs. What they're doing is training again and again and again, making sure their skills are tip-top, so when they get called out on an emergency, there's a maximum chance of survival for those people who need it. Well, they invited us out to join them on one of their training sessions. And let me just tell you that the dummies you're going to see in this piece look very, very real, but let me assure you they are dummies. Just watch this.
So guys, just to bring everybody in, we've got a 50-year-old male motorcyclist gone into this railing. We've got an amputation of this left arm with significant arterial hemorrhage and blood loss. We're concerned about injuries on the right side of this chest, about ventilatory deficit and unconsciousness secondary to that bleeding, possibly secondary to some hypoxia and ventilatory failure as well.
We have a blood pressure of 80/50, heart rate of 120 and SATs of 97.
Ketamine we're giving 80 milligrams, 8 mils.
Check.
Rocuronium we're giving 100 milligrams, 10 mils.
Check.
So this kind of training is really important, and we do it on a normal shift between all of the real jobs that we go out when we go to see patients. And it's really important time. We use the same kit and the same equipment that we have on the helicopters and on the cars. And by doing this training, we get really familiar with it, and we get familiar with all of the little steps that we do on a job, so that when we come to treat a patient, we're slick, we're good at it, and we have enough brain space to do the job well.
That training which keeps that London Air Ambulance top of its field. And that training, just so you know, took place right below where I'm standing at the moment, underneath this helipad. Now do join me later in the programme, because I'll be speaking to one of the pilots of this incredible machine, and also we'll be hearing from somebody who's been saved by London's Air Ambulance in an incredible story that I promise you you're not going to forget. Join me in a few minutes time for that, but first I'll hand you over to Lakshmi, who's in the studio. Lakshmi.
Asad, thank you. We start with ULEZ. The scrappage scheme for vehicles that don't comply with the ultra-low emission zone is being expanded to everyone living in London, but those living in the surrounding counties still aren't eligible. The Mayor has announced that owners of all cars that are non-compliant will be able to get a grant of up to £2,000, while van owners could get up to £7,000. Our correspondent Tara Welsh has been speaking to Sadiq Khan.
When the Mayor makes an announcement about a subject that's divided Londoners, the media turn up in their droves. Until now, only those that met specific criteria could get money to scrap their vehicle if it wasn't ULEZ compliant. Now all Londoners will get up to £2,000 to do so. The amount for vans will be increased to £7,000 and wheelchair adapted vehicle grants will double. It won't make a difference to Andrea though. She uses a 7-seater diesel car for her job as a childminder.
Yeah, I've looked into it, and for what I'd get, I wouldn't be able to buy a decent enough car or big enough car for my business. Well, I take my children out on visits to farms, soft plays and everything, and I'm going to have to pay £12.50 to do it.
I say to Andrea is from today, you'll be eligible for support from the scrappage scheme, and you may not have been before if you weren't receiving benefits or child benefit.
She was eligible, she couldn't get anything.
Right, so what happened is last week my team simply went to a website that's famous, that sells vehicles. They managed to find more than 5,000 vehicles, just in a few moments, more than 5,000 vehicles in London for less than £2,000 that are compliant.
The Mayor's been under pressure from Labour colleagues to improve his plans after the party lost out to the Tories at the recent Uxbridge by-election. While many welcome today's announcement, the scheme will only be open to everyone from the 21st of August. The charge will be enforced just 8 days later.
Londoners are saying delay this because 3 weeks isn't enough, 8 days isn't enough to get this through to buy a new car. That's what Londoners are saying.
That's not with respect what Londoners are saying. There's a letter today written by 400...
That's what Londoners are saying to us. They're saying 8 days is not long enough.
There's a letter written today by 400 GPs, health experts, asking me not to delay.
Will everyone get their money before the deadline?
Well, what I'd encourage your viewers to do is first check whether their vehicle is compliant. As I said, 9 out of 10 cars driving out of London are compliant. 97% of cars in London are compliant.
Yes or no, will they get their money in time?
If people's vehicles...
If they apply now, will they get money in time?
If people's vehicles aren't compliant, apply to the TfL today for support, and you'll get support before August 29th.
But Andrea and others feel despite today's announcement, they're still losing out. Tara Welsh, BBC London.
And there's much more on the ULEZ expansion on our website, including details of how to apply for the scrappage scheme. And if you've got any questions about the scheme, do get in touch with us. You can email us at hellobbclondon@bbc.co.uk, and we'll try to get answers for you on our programme at 6:30 on Monday. Well, now let's take a quick look at some of the day's other news. A man has died after it's believed he was assaulted during a possible robbery in North London. Officers say 52-year-old Ibrahim Pertek from Wood Green was attacked in an alley next to Wood Green Library in the early hours of Sunday the 16th of July. He died in hospital on Tuesday. Police are appealing for information. Work has started on a major rebuild of Harlow Town Centre. The demolition is part of a phased project to create a new £20 million arts and cultural quarter for the town. There'll be no rail services from London to Brighton's Pride event this weekend. Govia Thameslink says it made a difficult decision because of staff shortages and safety concerns. Brighton station will be closed and the Gatwick Express won't run. Brighton Hove Council says it's extremely disappointed by the move. Well, let's return now to Asad, who's on the helipad at the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel. Asad.
Lakshmi, thanks very much for that. So this is where London's air ambulance is based, on the roof of the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel on the helipad. But it's not where the helicopter actually lives. Like a lot of us, it makes a morning commute to the helipad in Whitechapel, and in the evening, it makes an evening commute back home. Where's home? Well, that's at RAF Northolt. So early this morning, I decided to head that way to hitch a lift on the helicopter as it made its morning commute here to East London. London's air ambulance waking up, ready to be taken anywhere to help anyone.
Twist grip alignment.
There's a line my side.
And a line my side. Landing lights.
All off my side.
In the way we get ready for the day ahead, this is the daily ritual performed to make sure the helicopter is ready and alert.
727 Bravo Charlie International, clear for takeoff. That's flying away. Copied.
Even during the rush hour, there are no traffic jams, train delays or tube strikes. When you're in the air, this 1.5 hour car journey takes just 6 minutes.
Peter, is this the best commute that anyone could possibly have to work? It certainly is, with the best view in London, I have to say. It changes every day, is different. It's wonderful in that respect. No 2 days are ever the same.
And while you're flying over London like this, are you also at the back of your mind looking to see possible places where you could land?
Funny you should say that, and exactly that, yes we do.
So flying London's air ambulance is so much more than just getting from A to B quickly. As London changes, so must routes and landing areas. The pilot needs to constantly look out for a space sometimes as small as the size of a tennis court to come down.
You're always alert, looking for where the next job might be. Very much so, because if you can just get that head of the game by just a few seconds, can make a difference sometimes. Okay, so this is left-hand downwind, 4+1, helipad recovery to the Royal London.
As we approach the helipad, it's a chance to reflect upon the skill of these pilots. Their job may seem glamorous to most of us, but like the medics they carry, their knowledge is the difference between life and death. Now, I think that was the best, fastest and best commute I'm ever going to make across London. A journey actually took less than 400 seconds, would you believe? Now, somebody I want to speak to now is Jayne Clarke, Director of Fundraising and Marketing for London's Air Ambulance. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for letting us be here. For all the amazing work we've seen being done by the London's Air Ambulance team, it will surprise a lot of people that it's not taxpayers' money paying for this, it's charitable donations.
Yes, that's right.
This service is provided by Londoners for Londoners. Every single penny that London gives us provides this whole service. Everything that you're seeing up here tonight is paid for by us being a charity.
Now, the team are used to deadlines, tight deadlines. They have to get to anywhere in London within minutes because that counts and that saves lives. You've got a deadline of your own, which I know about, for next year, and I know you're worried about it. Tell us.
Well, as you can see, we have amazing 2 helicopters, but they are nearly 20 years old, and so we are up against time to replace them. We need to replace them with more modern, more innovative, more pioneering aircraft, and so we have to get those online by next year, and they cost £15 million, which is a lot of money, but we know that London will be there to support us, to raise the money to get 2 new helicopters.
If you don't get the money from Londoners, can you continue to operate?
It will be difficult. It will be very difficult for us to be able to operate if we don't get the full £15 million, but we will do it. And as I said before, London has always supported us. It's supported us for the last 34 years, and so we hope they rally behind us and enable us to get these helicopters in time.
And the one thing the London Air Ambulance doesn't do is discriminate. It could be me, it could be someone I know, it could be somebody watching, someone they know, who the London Air Ambulance goes to save tomorrow, next week or next month.
That's true. We'll go to anybody, anyone within the M25. We will go to anyone who, whatever has happened to them. And so there's 5 people every single day that don't think they're going to need our service, but fortunately we are there for them, and we're there for every Londoner.
Jayne Clarke, we really hope you reach your target by next year. Thank you so much for joining us. So we've seen the work the London Air Ambulance do, we've seen them training, we've seen them out on their work, but everything being done here is in order to save lives. So we caught up with somebody whose life was saved 2 years ago in extraordinary circumstances. He wanted to come back here to say thank you to the people who saved him. This very moving report is by our correspondent Sonia Jessup.
Happy birthday to you!
James Basco Smith celebrating with his family. But at the age of 17, his life changed forever. He was repeatedly stabbed outside his home. His heart stopped for almost an hour. But James did not die. He was saved by medics from London's Air Ambulance. 2 years on, he's come to the helipad to meet them.
It was scary times at first, just kind of thinking, oh my gosh, now there's no doctors, there's no nurses.
James's family had feared at first he would not survive. The situation at the scene looked desperate.
He had just gone into cardiac arrest about 2 minutes before we arrived, and when we arrived and had a look at him, his heart had already stopped beating.
And I just kept on saying to the police officer, I just want to hold his hand, I just want to hold his hand through this. And the officer said to me, they're working on him, his heart had stopped, and they're performing open heart surgery. And I'm just like, but don't you need to be in a hospital to do this?
It's a very aggressive form of resuscitation that we do. We had to give him all his blood back, so a big transfusion very quickly, open up his chest, and because the heart's not beating, we actually had to beat it ourselves by squeezing it.
You actually had your hands on his heart, basically.
Yeah, holding the heart in your 2 hands and squeezing it so that you can pump blood and oxygen around to all the organs of the body.
Well, sadly, knife crime is something that medics here are very familiar with. Around a third of the call-outs that the air ambulance deals with are to patients with stab or penetration wounds, and many of them are young people.
The view is good.
The view's good.
The devastating impact of knife crime is something James wants to raise awareness of. He suffered severe brain injuries. He needs constant care and support with communication. But he and his family wanted to thank the air ambulance team.
They didn't give up on James. You know, James was fighting to stay alive and they fought with him, and we are just immensely grateful.
We wouldn't be able to be continuing the life that we're living now with James. We would have had a different story. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for saving me and not giving up on me. I have a second chance at my life.
James Basco Smith there, and I know you're watching tonight, James, with your family. Let me tell you that the London Air Ambulance team were incredibly touched that you came here to say thank you to them, and we wish you all the very best as well. But now we're going to move on to get the weather forecast, because you might be able to tell from that windsock behind me, it's been blowing away for this past half hour, and it is very windy up here, but I have to say not too cold, Louise. So tell us what it's going to be like. I'm just glad it hasn't been raining.
Asad, your view definitely trumps my weather watchers, but that windsock is going to be going for it as we go through the night tonight and into tomorrow as the winds are set to increase. Cloudy skies today, but we were quite lucky across the capital, actually. In fact, there were some sharp showers. Just take a look at Whitechapel and Kent, so just down the road east of London. There were some pretty heavy showers as we went through the day. I suspect those garden furnitures have not seen much use just recently, but you might be able to sit on them over next week. More on that in just a moment. This is the story then through the day today. You can see those showers to the east of London and also see the cloud and rain gathering out to the west. This is actually Storm Anthony. It's been named by the Met Office. It's another deep area of low pressure that's going to move in through the night tonight. The heaviest of the rain will be through Northern Ireland and the strongest of the winds across Wales and southwest England. But it will bring some wet weather for us. Have a good lie-in in the morning, because the morning is going to be wet and increasingly windy, and as the rain moves away, a trail of showers spiralling around that low is set to kick in, and they'll be accompanied by gusts of winds at 25 to 30 miles an hour at times. That will push the showers through at quite a pace, but those temperatures very disappointing really for this time of year. So Storm Anthony will gradually drift its way eastwards, and actually Sunday is a more promising day, certainly the better of the two throughout the weekend. So we will start off on Sunday with some drier, brighter weather around, some sunshine coming through first thing in the morning, a risk of a few isolated showers into the afternoon, particularly to the north and west, but these should be few and far between, and temperatures will be a degree or so higher, so we're likely to see top temperatures of 20 Celsius. Here it is. I need a drum roll for this bit. Finally, we get an area of high pressure building across the UK. This is going to happen Wednesday through into Thursday, and what that basically means is finally we'll get some settled summer-like weather. So Monday and Tuesday looks likely to be pretty wet and still pretty windy at times, but from Wednesday onwards, dry, settled and hopefully pleasantly warm.
Louise, thanks very much for that. Well, that's about it from us at the Royal London Hospital helipad in Whitechapel. We've spent the day with London's air ambulance team, who've given us incredible access to see the work that they do day in, day out, saving nearly 2,000 lives a year. If you've missed any part of this programme and you want to watch it again, then please watch back on the BBC iPlayer. Get in touch with us as well on Facebook and on Twitter. From all of us here, do have a very good evening. Bye-bye.